Okay, so I'm just gonna say a little bit about the meeting, so we have it heard. So this is, development initiation meeting 8/11/25/0000160-PRE. And it's regarding property at 804 West End Street. And, it's to discuss a 3-lot partition. And so if we just want to start with introductions, you can.
I'll start at this end. This is my wife, Natividad Burdick. This is one of my best friends, my real estate broker, Lloyd Cruz.
You're under duress.
I'm the only other person that's supposed to be here. I'm Richard Burdick.
Yes.
I'm Thane Smith. I'm the residential plans examiner.
Okay,
I'm Chris Moorhead. I'm from the city surveyor's office.
okay,
And I'm Liz Miller with planning.
I'm Mark Rust, also with current planning.
okay,
I'm Mike Liebler. I'm city's transportation planning engineer.
okay,
Clayton McEachern, Public Works Engineering.
okay.
And then we have Gilbert on the screen here.
You're muted.
Can't hear you, Gilbert.
All right, I hate these things. I'd rather be there in person, but it is what it is. I'm Gilbert Gordon, Eugene Springfield Deputy Fire Marshal.
Okay,
And do we want to start with our written questions first, or do you want to go ahead with the question?
well, no, forget that first question.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay,
Okay. So the first question is basically for Gilbert. It's access and fire code compliance. Will a shared driveway from Rainbow Drive to serve lots 2 and 3 meet fire code requirements? And what turnaround or width standards apply? Is a hammerhead or T turnaround required?
Okay, yeah, and basically I did some research on that. Let's see, I guess the good news is that you won't have to provide a hammerhead or a turnaround. When I measured from what the narrative proposed was, the shop that expected to turn into be turned into a residence. So I treated it as such and started measuring my attack hose length from the southwest corner of the existing, in this case, shop, but will be by this plan will become a residence. And then I just measured to the east, and then up the drive as a hose lays. The 150-foot mark is just a little bit over the property line, and between that distance and to the street is less than 150 feet, another 150 feet. So our truck doesn't have to go all the way in. And because of that, yeah, we don't need any kind of turnaround needed, at least for this proposal. So that part's good. However, the minimum clear width is still 20 feet, and it's got to be able to support the 80,000 pound or 86,000 pound load now that's for fire apparatus. But otherwise, though, I think what you got should work.
Okay,
Then, yeah, see. Yeah, as long as we can gain access from Rainbow Drive, that's going to be the big thing. And the main driver for that is that it just got a better water supply there with that hydrant on the corner versus the frontage on N Street. The hydrant on the corner, I want to say it's like a 8 or 10 inch line versus just that old puny 4-inch on that runs along N Street. And because of that, it's going to be a huge difference in terms of water supply, which is why the preference probably would be to, take the one off Rainbow and West Olympic.
Gilbert, just to mention, you also don't have the ability, there isn't 20 feet available from the house that's on N to the
That is
property.
correct.
So
Yeah.
another reason
Yeah.
why it needs to be derived from Rainbow.
well, that was my plan, not to do an easement across the existing house lot. for lot number one.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep. I think that answers both my questions, Liz.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet. I don't, does the applicants have any further questions for me?
Perfect.
No, I think that covers pretty much what I need to know at this point.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll hang then.
So then, question 2 is regarding flag lot eligibility and frontage. Do lots 2 and 3 qualify as flag lots under current zoning? And are there minimum frontage or panhandle width requirements I need to meet? Is the rear lot configuration permissible, and are there exceptions or design flexibility? And so I think we should first talk about the special street setback as we get into this. There are flag lot standards. For a single, it's 14 feet wide, and for over a single, it's 20 feet. And you have to have the 20 feet easement anyway for fire.
Right.
But there's, I don't know if, Michael, if you want to talk about the special street setback, or Mark wants to talk about that.
I don't know if it helps to go like that, but
My plan, what I drew here, has a 20-foot access to that middle lot.
one of the setback standards in the development code is what we call a special street setback. It kind of ties into transportation stuff, but it is listed as a setback. It's in our setback table. So your typical building setbacks for a structure are, 10 feet front property line setback to a structure, 5-foot side setback. Is the code open at all anywhere?
No, I have MapSpring open, but not the code.
Yeah, so basically, in a nutshell, if we look at MapSpring, the requirement for this special street setback, and I don't know, even know what I'm clicking on here, but I don't know where MapSpring went. There it is. So there's a 20, basically from what would be considered the center line of this 30-foot wide right of way on the north side, which is offset by just a little bit. But so if
30-foot right of way.
yeah, but just this little piece is offset, it doesn't line up with your property line.
Okay.
So all that to say is just wherever the 15-foot center line of that 30-foot would fall.
Okay,
What the special street setback says is from, it's not gonna be exact, but I'm gonna approximate where that 15-foot would be. The street setback is 28.5 feet over from that point, and I'm not gonna be able to get it exact. But so that distance right there is what is this, it's to preserve a future street extension corridor is what the intent of this special street setback is. So basically, this setback provision in our code envisions extending a street through this property because the street stubs into the property. This little stub of the street is basically a little dead end. The code basically anticipates anytime a street does that, it's envisioned that it's planned to go through someday. I mean, that's what, we could look at the code language, but that's what it says. So what it doesn't do or say, it does not require you to dedicate that area. It just requires you to preserve it, which means not building within that area, which has a significant impact to your property. It would mean that the configuration of your lot as shown, instead of having a 20-foot wide from here to here, is now, more like a, I don't know what that would be, 45-foot wide probably. Doesn't leave a whole lot of room over here to build a whole lot, because then you still have to have your setback. So that's like a presumed future right-of-way line.
okay.
Or property line. There's more to it than that. That's just kind of the simple start of what the code says. Because practically speaking, this makes, for all intents and purposes, your property much less developable. So we recognize that and don't want to make your property not developable.
Right,
So there's kind of this balance we have to look at or think about in terms of striking the balance between what's reasonable here and what our code is saying.
right. So,
And there's exceptions for structures that are already there. So, you know, you could still convert the other structure and do like a 2-lot partition.
Could we assume that when the shop was placed, when we're gonna convert, we wanna convert, that it's in line with this
No,
29, whatever it is?
no, you can't assume that. This standard we're talking about is a relatively new standard within the last probably 6 or 7 years. So I'm assuming, I don't know when that shop was built, let's just assume.
More than 20 years ago.
Yeah, okay, so that wouldn't have been contemplated at the time. But what Liz was just saying is, we also recognize this structure's there and in the way, as well as the house. We don't want you to, and really, we can't expect you to bulldoze this structure or the house. We're not gonna pursue that. We wouldn't require that. Not that you would even pursue it to do that, but so. Again, what's reasonable? So today, without doing anything, without even doing a partition, you could convert this shop, if you can meet building code to do
Yeah.
it, you could convert the shop to a dwelling. And you're allowed to have a duplex on 2 dwellings on this property, just as one property. And then later, through a middle housing land division, you could divide off at least that 1 lot with that second dwelling on it. Where the more of a question comes into play is if you want to pursue, like you've shown, is a 3rd lot. And that 3rd lot doesn't have any existing structures on it. And so then, even to pursue like adding a 3rd dwelling today, just as a triplex on this lot, would then trigger this new setback requirement, because that setback's in place, that's special street setback. It gets kind of complicated because of the timing of what was there first and when the setback came into play and kind of, you know.
Do we have an approximate, I'm not interrupting you.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Do we have an approximate measurement between the edge of this surprise and back, you know, the other side of the lot? I'm just wondering if it's.
Yeah, from like here to here, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can just guesstimate that.
That's fine for now, yeah.
Let's just, I'm gonna eyeball
that's
it right at this line.
about 30 feet wide.
Let's just go from about right here to this. I'm gonna go to the fence, because so about 30, yeah, you're exactly right, about 30 some feet. So, I mean, if you had a 10-foot setback for your front, that leaves you 20 feet, and then a 5-foot setback, is it 5 for the back?
So if you go off the street frontage, that would be the opposite, along Rainbow would be your front and rear, and then you'd only have 5 and 5 along there. Is that, or would you consider that
Yeah, it's
a
a,
street with a special street setback?
yeah, no, that wouldn't change. I don't know, that's a good question, but let's just assume a 10-foot front and a 5-foot back here. That only leaves you a 15-foot wide
So it's not doable.
envelope. You might be able to stick a single wide trailer in there. I don't know how narrow those are. But there's very limited space.
There
Certainly wouldn't be a double wide. Yeah.
A single wide is 14.
Yeah.
Has to do with how wide they can move them down the road
Right,
without
sure.
special permits and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, some of the new, what I call the new single wide trailers are these like tiny home prefab structure things. You know, again, not knowing how wide those are, one of those might be able to fit in here kind of thing.
Those are less.
Basically, something that could be hauled down the road would fit.
But and again, it could be a stick built house. You could stick build yeah.
I just I'm trying to get a
Well,
picture.
you get about 15 feet roughly. It's about what you could count.
I think those
a
trailers-
buildable footprint wide.
Typically, your widest trailer is about 10.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Typically, your widest trailer, like common trailer, is about 10 feet wide. And most of them are 8.
What's a lane?
Yeah, I know, but so when I think of.
Yeah.
But it's even a single wide is wider than that.
There's no possibility of some kind of an exception to that.
Well, there is. So one is there's a variance process where you can ask for a 30% reduction. So the 28.5 foot is the number, that's the setback requirement. So a 30% reduction of that number gets you down to about 20. So it would gain you almost another, well, 8.5 feet probably, or 8 feet. So you go from 15 now to 23 feet wide. with a variance approval. So that's one potential area that you
Well,
could,
wait a minute. So we could get it down to 20 feet? And
let me just do the math. I can. For
the center
30
line of the access to the middle lot
Yeah, it'd be
is 10 feet.
19.95.
And then add 20 feet to that. And the lot is 70 feet wide. That makes 40 feet that I would have.
Well, it's the
Oh, I see
28 and
what
a
you
half
mean.
feet is measured from the center line.
25 feet.
So it would reduce from 28 and a half down to 19.95. So just round it to 20. So instead of, so you'd go from this, what a presumed center line at 15 feet center of this 30 foot. And then you'd
Oh.
measure over, whoops, I did that wrong. But
Oh.
anyway, you'd measure over 20 feet instead
Yeah.
of the 28 and a half, which would give you, again, quite a fair bit more. Instead of a 15-foot wide building footprint envelope, you'd get about 23-foot wide building footprint envelope. Roughly. But that's with the variance. And then the other piece of this whole conversation is us having to consider the impact of that setback to your property. I mean, like from a constitutional standpoint, like can government impose a restriction on your property that severely limits the ability for you to develop it based on your investment backed expectations since you bought it, kind of thing. And we're cognizant of that. We're not trying to take your property. I mean, this standard in our code has been there for years. Is what it is. We apply it, but in some cases, it's not always reasonable to apply fully, I guess.
Its intent when created was meant to preserve corridors through larger, of course, greenfield lots so that somebody couldn't, because at the time when it was contemplated, there was just a right to you could just put a house on any lot, anywhere you wanted, not considering anything, right?
Right.
And so somebody with a large lot could stick a house right where a road could go through, road needed to go through there. And so we said, hey, look, let's set this up so that, 2 points of roads that have an intervening property, you can say, just don't build something in that part.
And we could show you actually a great example of that, just north of here, in this neighborhood where these developments this development came in and put in this cross street. They built all these houses. Well, this Olympic Street comes and stops. Well, there's a gap, and then there's this gap and connects to here.
Sure.
So as these properties infill with development, the idea is we're preserving this corridor to connect this fully through here.
Right.
The other thing is that 28.5-foot measurement is based on the fact that we would envision like a 60-foot wide or 55-foot wide street right-of-way corridor. Well, we don't have that here. We have a much lesser width to deal with. So again, from a practicality standpoint, that 28.5 foot doesn't make any sense. And this right here is an example of a street that's a 30-foot wide street. It has no parking on either side of it, but it's within a 30-foot wide right-of-way. And it's a public road.
I was the engineer that helped develop that, the Fairhaven, and that's going to be, it's now the primary access to that little subdivision. But when Olympic connects through, that turns into an alley.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what we set it up for.
Yeah.
Right now, it was the only way we could get development in that little, Bruce Weicker did that.
Yeah, I know.
So it's temporarily the main driveway into the neighborhood.
Kind of a hybrid.
In the next 20 years, as Olympic builds out, it'll stop being Fairhaven Street and be Fairhaven Alley.
It does. Alleys typically don't have sidewalks, but
Yeah.
so, and we could zoom out on the map again too, but if you look at this area more broadly, the limitation of what kind of Michael was talking about, just connectivity wise, there's really all the way from Prescott here, all the way over to Tamarack, and from Centennial to Fairview there's not much opportunity for a north-south connection.
I was gonna say, an example of why we have this rule is at the end of Nighthawk there, where it should punch
Right
through.
here.
A house got built right
Right.
away before we
Yeah.
had this rule.
So ultimately, we would have liked to see this street come through. Well, now that's blocked. And so what we're really contemplating long-term, big picture is how can there be a north-south connection somewhere in here? And this stubbed out street is what was envisioned as kind of this future planned north-south connection.
Right, but that'd,
Well, you'd have to take his house down.
Right.
And does that ever happen?
Well, not often. It's not outside the realm of possibility where even the city could potentially buy your property.
yeah,
And we facilitate having this right of way dedicated to the public for a future street. And then the remainder is the city sells it for housing to somebody.
Well, you're dragging common sense into what you're telling us.
Well, there are,
I
Oregon's
tend to do
got,
that sometimes.
Oregon does have
That's-
very
That's a
strong,
fatal thing to do.
Oregon has very strong rules to protect property owners against adverse possession.
Right.
It's gotta be for the common good, reviewed by judges. There's all kinds of stuff that I'm not an expert on, but I know it's a very arduous process for us to condemn and tear down a property.
I've been in this all my life and the surprises are always there.
Yeah.
If we were to think maybe that variable or variance would be a very important piece of this discussion, which I think it is, how would you proceed on? I've got a guy in my head. He's probably not gonna be the guy that buys it, but he could.
Mhm.
He does what we're envisioning will happen with this property.
Sure.
And he would want to have some belief that he could get it done if he was gonna write a check for anything. So how can you, I'm the marketer here.
Yeah.
How do I make steps on this ladder?
To give them the assurance that that
That,
would.
that might, could we get some kind of a?
A variance application, and then I can get that for you and then get
Okay.
to the code section
What,
on a minor variance, it's called.
I thought maybe,
The trick is though, that minor variance just by itself. I don't know, without the partition. So you as the current owner
right,
could apply for, say, the partition with a variance today and get approval. And then sell it to this guy or whoever
right,
with those approvals.
that's what
I
we
mean,
have.
this guy or somebody could be involved with that process to make sure whatever approval you were getting was kind of in line with their vision for what they wanted to do. Because otherwise, I get your point. He doesn't want to buy it, not knowing if he's gonna be 28.5 feet.
Value isn't there if he.
So, other than that, like Liz said, there's not I mean, we have, like a zoning verification letter or, some kind of, determination process where you could kind of ask the question and we put the answer in writing. But until you have the actual land use approval, the approval of the variance in conjunction with the partition, it's still not quite a done deal.
So. Makes sense.
Yeah.
what is the cost on that variance application?
We could look it up for you. All our fees are online. Liz could point us to where it is online, and I'm not sure that's the best use of our time right now. We just have an hour. We could
Yeah,
get
I
to some of
can
the
get you
other
that.
questions. We can definitely get you that fee.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Is it type 2, so it'd go to, just like the partition.
or
was, it'd go
I'll
to
look
the
it up
zoning
while you
board.
guys are addressing some of these other questions too.
So the next one is utility access and easements. Can each lot be independently served by water, sewer, and power? And will I need to record utility easements for lots 2 and 3? Do utility stubs exist or they need an extension? And then Clayton can talk.
So
about
I
the
don't know
forms
for
and-
water and power. Sub-utility would have to answer those and I just don't know. But my guess is everything for your two proposed lots to the north, notwithstanding this discussion we just had.
Right,
But utility service to everything north of your existing house would come off the rainbow stub. That's much newer. And it's going to have the excess capacity and ability to expand what capacity is there much better than anything off West End. So yes, you would need to have utility and access easements. Whatever the outcome of the right of way setback discussion is, at a minimum, you're gonna have to have enough through the northernmost lot, you're gonna have at least 20 feet built through there to the middle lot, no matter what the outcome of all this is.
The north lot has to have an.
Yeah, and it's gotta be paved and all that. And as part of that, we would do a utility access as well as a physical access easement. As all that, and the sewer, right now for what you're doing, the sewer would need to be, you'd run two laterals off the end of the stub sewer coming in off the end of the rain. It's there. It's stubbed out near the end of the street on Rainbow. You would put a Y at the end of that with two lines, one for each lot. Now, if you wanted to do further subdivisions down the road, we need to discuss a different process, and I'm not sure that the city is going to be willing to extend the public line there without some guarantee of it cutting through in the future, not with this being zoned R1. Meaning, we know it's gonna go all the way through. Like I said, a lot depends on the outcome here. So where I'm going with all this, if there's further subdivisions you can do beyond the 3-lot partition down the road with middle housing subdivision. As part of that, each lot has to have its own sewer service. You cannot have a combined sewer, well, you can have a combined sewer service, but it's a really, you gotta go through state DEQ. It's quite a process. This is also true for sub-utility and all that. Each lot has to have its own utility line from the public, wherever it departs from the public right away. And if you wanna, the further you subdivide and chop this property up, the harder and harder that gets. For a 3-lot partition, what you're doing, there's plenty of room to get all this done without it being particularly difficult or expensive. But if you wanna set it up for future land divisions down the road, whoever say buys it wants to do that, it gets a lot harder.
Okay.
And anything you do now might have to be redone to allow that future partition. There's a lot of hypotheticals on this question, but for what you proposed, very straightforward, standard 3-lot partition. This is like bread and butter stuff. Outside, once again, I'm not talking about the special street setback. That's a separate deal.
Yeah.
But getting the utilities there, no problem. It can be done. It's straightforward. It's stuff that's done all the time.
We recommend you definitely reach out to Sub and talk
Yeah,
to them. about-
absolutely. But I imagine.
And
all the
earlier
services-
than later, like, cause they have the fees, I mean, you could potentially be shocked by the costs that Sub would
There's
charge.
Meter fees and systems development charges, and then there may be a fee for a new transformer, depending on the capacity in the neighborhood. And those, it can rack up pretty quick. But so yes, definitely talk to them.
And Sub often catches people off guard with some of their requirement, timeframe for their design of this.
All the new services, and this would include the existing service to the house, has to be placed underground. That has to be complete to grant the partition. Like the services have to be stubbed out to the property lines.
Right.
And the service to the existing house, if it's not underground already, and I have no idea, would need to be placed underground. Usually from the nearest pole, you're already getting service. If it's overhead service, they would just run a conduit underground from that pole. And it's usually, well, it depends on where your meter is. If the meter's on the outside of the house or an easy to get to spot, switching it to underground service is usually not all that bad. And they set it up. They've been setting it up for the past 10 years to make that as easy as possible if you had your service redone anytime recently. But anyway, sub-electric, talk to you about the electric service, and then sub-water. They don't talk to each other all that often, so you definitely need to contact each separately.
So water and electric.
Yeah. And also going off what Gilbert let us know about the water mains, the 10-inch main off your Rainbow end is much more likely to have good pressure and service to support new development. But they're the final word on that, not me.
Something is getting ready to be done on West End Street.
I have no idea.
There's, somebody is, the what is it, 800 or,
Yeah, the call before you dig people. Yeah.
anyway, there's lines painted all the way down the street from east
Well,
of
and that can be
Prescott
done-
to west of.
That could be done for any number of reasons. It could be utility work. It could be somebody else in your neighborhood is thinking about doing this.
Could be fiber network stuff.
It could be Zipley's putting in fiber network all over the place.
They already put fiber in, it's on the
Oh,
poles.
yeah, see, once again, I don't know
Could be
of anything.
Northwest Natural Gas. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be anybody for a lot of different people.
And it could be somebody who's contemplating, maybe the big lot at the end, like the school district, is contemplating doing something and they need to know where their utility connection is. And so they called them. to
But
get
it's all the
lines.
way up and down the road, you said?
Yeah.
We have no idea.
Sewer and water
Yeah.
and
Sub may have a project, something,
Yes.
maybe they're gonna rehab their water line.
I don't know of any capital projects of the city there.
I don't know of any city sponsored project doing this.
I didn't do it.
But like I said, it could be even the school district is looking to build a new building there and they haven't talked to us yet about it.
yeah.
Cause they're looking, is it feasible?
That's
You know,
Right.
First thing you do.
yeah, that's the first thing you do to do the initial feasibility for anything is you call locates, find out where your connections are and then go from there.
Well, I can't see that they're gonna tear up the street that much. And the condition of West End in that portion,
A lot of times we don't hear about it till they come in to get the permits to tear up the street toward the end of the process.
well, I can't see them doing that without repaving the whole
Oh.
street.
Yeah, that's a separate discussion and I can't comment on that till we know exactly what's being proposed. So
Right.
I don't know.
So we'll
Well,
go on to,
Yeah, so we don't run out of time here. Yeah.
so question 4 is permitting sequence and timeline. What's the recommended sequence for submitting the partition application, encroachment permit, and any residential conversion approval for the shop on lot 2? Can any steps be bundled or expedited? So, when you have an accessory structure by itself, it can't be on a lot without a primary. So I would suggest turning the building permit in. You can do what's called a duplex on any lot and do the conversion. It's considered a duplex, but you can have 2 detached single units. So then start the building permit on that before you turn in the partition, because if a lot is separate, an accessory structure isn't permitted. So you'd want to
Yeah.
get that conversion going first.
Well, would there be a certain length of time after the lot was partitioned to apply for, to,
You'd want to do it before you partitioned.
okay,
You could get your tentative partition
Right.
approval and then just not record the final plat for it to create the legal lot. And what's,
Right.
it's a
Until
good
you
for,
get
it's
occupancy.
good for 2 years, I forget.
1 year for a partition.
Yeah, so you have like a year, you could wait till after your tentative approval. If you want, then not convert the structure to a dwelling until you got your tentative partition approval before you record a final plat.
Let me make sure I understand. So the sequence would be tentative approval of the partition, or we do the duplex permit? I don't think I'm
yeah.
right. I'm just questioning.
You could turn in at least the application. You wouldn't have to get occupancy until before the plat was recorded. So the tentative partition, there could be a condition in there just saying that before platting, you have to get final occupancy inspection on that.
You could
So-
run the building permit and the work to turn that into a dwelling concurrently with your subdivision approval. Partition
Yeah.
approval.
Partition.
Say, it's the,
I mean, if
You
the,
do them at the same time.
you can do it concurrently, yes, same
Yeah,
time.
but just the plat wouldn't be recorded until you got final occupancy of the structure.
if the intent is to delay the conversion of the structure till as late as possible, then you could push it off to wait until right before your final plat's recorded.
Okay.
But you could also do it as early, you could do it now without ever partitioning.
Yeah.
You could convert it to a structure. It could be the first thing you did. You could come in for a permit tomorrow and submit to convert the structure.
Then you could start getting rent or whatever.
well, my understanding is that I could have up to 4 structures, 4 residences on that lot,
That's
just
right.
the way it is.
As a fourplex, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
But with
You're still gonna
still
run into
have
that
this-
street setback issue, that,
Right,
and so you'd have to hem them in there north of that structure. 2 more could fit in there potentially, small ones. But that's right.
And.
Or you could go up, you could go vertical.
Yeah,
use that,
Depending on how you do it, it makes dividing them off later more tricky, especially when you start talking about the water and sewer services.
right,
to the point of being not practical.
That's the big thing for dividing them off later is,
okay,
But you don't have to divide them off either. Like, you could just have four dwellings on this property
and never.
indefinitely.
right, and have
The code allows that.
somebody own it as rental property.
Sure.
Right.
The other thing is, so say you do ultimately end up with 3 lots. Ultimately, you could have a duplex on each one of those 3 lots.
Okay,
So whether you tore the shop down and actually built a duplex or figured out how to add a second story to that shop to create an up and down 2 units, or the 3rd vacant lot, ultimately figure out how to squeeze 2 units on it.
our experience has been the most difficult part of a middle house, you're talking about 4 units would be in the middle housing code, is the later subdivision of that 4 units. Getting it permitted and built and all the utilities to fit and all that, 4 units is usually pretty solvable. Getting it so you can divide it later is really hard.
There's stormwater retentions.
Everything has to be
Everything
separate.
Together, and it can't be.
And that's also, subdivision is when we require frontage improvements and other stuff. And so, like I said, you could run into almost impossible to submit hurdles if you don't carefully plan it from the beginning. And sometimes the answer is you can't do this with 4 lots. You know, you could divide each one, you might be able to get 2 or 3 to get the middle housing density. Once again, each case is different, and I'm just telling you our experience, not anything specific to your lot, but it's the division that is proving to be the most difficult thing, not the units themselves.
So 4 dwellings is possible without doing anything to the lot.
Once again, with the special street setback,
Right.
But yes,
yes. We still have some utility hurdles to clear and stuff like that, but that's an engineering challenge that we're well equipped to work with you on. Once again, it's the land division.
I don't know which is easier and I don't know which one's the value.
Well, and we're not here to make
I understand that.
financial advisements. It's just what beats the code.
I did find your variance application fee. It'd be $3,381.95 that's today.
3,000, how much?
$3,381.95. So
And then the partition application fees, they total $10,893.
is that for the tentative and final?
Yes,
Yeah, I think.
and the 2 completeness meetings.
Okay. And those aren't all paid at once. Those are divided up, staged a little bit.
Okay.
And then the last question is about the conversion of the shop structure.
I think that's pretty much already been
Did-
I've gotten what I need.
I didn't hear
Okay.
from building for that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, you.
Questions on
So the biggest challenges when converting an existing structure to habitable space is once the use changes, we need to make sure that current use meets the current code.
Right.
So usually the biggest hurdle is the foundation.
It's on a cement slab.
Do you know how thick that slab is? Or if it's got a thickened edge? Because exterior walls require a 12-inch wide footing, at least 12 inches below grade to frost for frost evil.
I don't think so.
I don't know how thick it is, but it's thick enough that they ran cats in there, rebuilt them before somebody else started converting it to a house and got shut down by the city.
So we would need a building permit application
Right.
and we would need information on that existing foundation. I would just suggest digging down on the side of that to see what the depth is.
Right.
And there's, I think, some safe assumptions we can make. If that's at least 12 inches below grade, then I think we can assume that the permit in 91 met current code. Is it on so it's not on a footing and stem wall. It's just got a complete slab all the way across.
Right.
Okay.
So the walls are sitting on just top of the slab. They're not raised up on concrete.
Okay. So yeah, that we would need to determine that.
Would you need to do a core drill in the middle of the slab or anything like that?
I don't think that's been the building officials'
Okay. This
stance
is-
on that. Like
This
if
is
we dig down.
curiosity on my part, not anything pertaining to you.
Yeah, if we,
Where the garage door opening is, could you dig down?
Or the garage door has been taken out
Yeah,
and filled in with
it's probably thickened there too anyway. I was thinking.
It's gonna be thicker
I
than
guess that, yeah.
I mean, ideally, you dig down, you excavate on the side of the thing and it's, you're at least 12 inches below grade. And then we can make some assumptions that it's probably meeting the code standards.
Right.
The same today as it would have been in 1991.
So you're saying that code standard would have been,
Needs to meet, the new use needs to meet the new code.
what it is right now, but
Yeah.
he's saying if you can physically show that there's at least 12 inches of concrete around the edges, he
right?
can make some assumptions
Sure.
that it's okay.
Because that's what today's
My
code says.
question was when the thing was built and when the place was built in 91, what kind of regulations would anybody?
No idea, and for a shop like this, probably none.
Probably none is what I was thinking.
So, you know, along with the habitable space, there's a need for seismic anchorage, because we're in seismic design category T0, so there's gonna need to be anchor bolts to anchor that sill plate to the foundation, things like that, which can be done.
Is it wood frame, posted beam?
It's wood frame.
Okay.
2x6 or 2x4?
It's
Vault?
2x4.
Does the energy code, does that come into play? Like,
The energy code comes into play, but there's some allowances in the energy code for converting existing structures. So there's some allowances. Typically nowadays, people are constructing everything in 2x6 construction, and that's just so you get the wall cavity deep enough for standard R21 insulation. When you're dealing with 2x4 construction, there's some allowances in the building code for a reduced insulation, so you can put R15 minimum in the walls in 2x4 construction. So that's not as big of a challenge. Typically you can get there. The biggest challenge is the foundation, making sure that that's sufficient with the code.
What do they have to do for seismic? Put in cross bracing or?
Well, it'd just be, you'd have to go back through and do epoxy anchors. If there's no anchor bolts or anything anchoring that to the foundation. You'd have
Oh,
to
so
go-
it's not a racking problem, it's how it's tied to the foundation problem?
Yeah.
Okay,
Usually like shear wall's not an issue because garages and shops don't have very many openings in the walls. And the one big opening, the garage door opening, that's already been dealt with and all the load's been deviated around it, so. That's usually not an issue, and usually those are being framed in, so you're actually adding more wall.
yeah, no, that makes sense, I just, about when you talked about earthquake stuff, I immediately went to shear wall.
Yeah, it's
So-
mostly the anchorage.
Oh, okay.
So in the event of a seismic event,
Yeah.
something's not shaking off
No,
the
but most
foundation.
houses have big glazing somewhere, and so
Yeah.
you need a separate solid shear wall somewhere to handle that, so
Yeah.
anyway. It's engineering talk, don't worry about it, you're good.
Yeah, and if you excavate down and it turns out it's like on a 4-inch slab, 6-inch slab. It's not necessarily the end all, it's just, it wouldn't comply with this prescriptive
I
code.
think it's about that far from the framing to the ground level.
Right,
And
that's
then
for
I
separation.
dug down early on and I think it's 9 inches or more
Okay,
below that.
so it would need to be 12. But
keep digging.
Does it need to be 12 below the ground level?
below grade.
Buried, the distance from,
What's on?
Well,
That's what-
if the slab is 12 inches thick and it's partly above grade,
So you're saying like 9 inches is below grade?
yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be 12 by the language of the code. But that's not to say, there's lots of things that don't comply with this. This is like the easy cookbook. But if you hire a structural engineer and they come out and they say, listen, in our opinion, you know, you throw some straps on here, you do this, you do that, then you would just need to provide those calculations from the engineer. So this is just like a standard prescriptive method to get there. So if it doesn't meet that, you can still get there. It's just, it would require a structural engineer.
Okay,
And then energy requirements. Usually that's not a big problem because the allowance in here for existing buildings, so as long as you can get R15 minimums in the walls, there's a lot of language in the code that's kind of forgiving when you're listing or when you're working within the building confines of an existing structure that says it shall be this to the greatest extent practical.
Yeah.
So like ceiling insulation, floor insulation, it gives you some leniency there. And then the only other thing you'd have to worry about is depending on what you're doing for a floor covering. I don't know if you're planning on framing up the floor and using floor joists and framing up the floor. Or if you're just planning on putting a vapor barrier down and using the slab as the floor.
what I'm thinking is, the existing entry door, which is just like 36 inch, I think. Raise that up a couple of inches
Okay.
and then 2x6
Yeah.
joists.
If you're gonna be, because that's all gonna be enclosed, it's not gonna be ventilated. So it's required to all be pressure treated lumber underneath that
okay.
subfloor.
could you just epoxy coat the concrete, call that your floor? Would that count as a vapor barrier?
You're gonna need a vapor barrier in
But
either
There's
case.
liquid vapor barrier product.
Yeah,
That's what I'm asking, is there a floor coating?
you're gonna wanna prevent moisture from coming up
Right.
into that floor, whether it's you're directly laying stuff on that slab or whether you're framing in a floor,
Right.
but you're gonna wanna make sure that all the lumber underneath there is pressure treated. In 2x6, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that would get you the insulation minimums. I'm assuming you're insulating under the floor as well in those cavities.
Well, it's,
Could you?
I
put down-
was given
Sorry.
a sheet that was,
Yeah, garage conversions.
yeah, for insulation on a cement slab.
Yep.
And it had fiberglass on top of the slab
Mhm.
with 2x6s as the requirement.
Okay. Cause I was gonna say, even so, like I said, the building code says to the greatest extent practical when you're working within
Right.
an existing building, so just pack it full of insulation.
I got another personal curiosity question. Could you use, is there an EPS foam product you could use? Instead of-
You could, I mean, you just have to meet the R value.
Well, that's what, but instead of using joists or anything, could you just use some kind of high density styrofoam to, as your subfloor, then put down stuff on top of that?
Have an answer for that.
They make
I've never
styrofoam,
seen that before.
the reason I ask this, they make styrofoam products you can build roads on. So you can build styrofoam to that strong, but I don't know if it's readily available.
Yeah, that would be one of those things where I would say, submit the manufacturer's product data. And I'll run it past the building official and see what he says, but I've never seen that.
And styrofoam never ever rots, no matter how wet it gets. So that's kind of where my mind.
Yeah.
went. Sorry, once again.
Yeah.
It'd be like a floating
That's the
floor.
way you are.
Yeah.
Well, I see on YouTube, guys spraying the styrofoam
Yeah.
and putting down the subfloor to keep it from growing beyond the thickness that they want. Yeah, as they're spraying it, just going through and doing that.
What I'm thinking of is the actual styrofoam, big styrofoam. And it's not like styrofoam cooler stuff. It's just like sheets of styrofoam used for like insulation on the outside of a house.
There wouldn't be any
Right.
joists.
There wouldn't be any joist, but it would be the structural subfloor for you.
Does it matter if the slab is sloped, like for drainage, like out the front of the garage door?
I mean, it's a challenge when you're
Oh,
putting it down. You just have to make sure, I mean, you don't want your floor doing that.
You shim it up or trim
Yeah.
your joist to match or
Yeah,
whatever.
or
Yeah.
people put sleepers down and the sleepers get progressively thinner and thinner.
Chris, do you have anything?
No, just if there were any questions that came up.
Hey, Liz,
Yeah.
just found out the answer to the question with regards to who was it that was doing all those survey marks on the road?
Oh,
Yeah, it was Subwater. They're looking at a next year of upgrading that putrid 4-inch line with a proper 8-inch line.
oh.
there you go.
They've been working on that all over town slowly for the past decade or so.
Yeah,
is that
so
what's
Thank you.
happening on Mill Street?
they're
No,
looking at
That's
next
it. We'll tell
year.
you later. Mill Street's a
Yeah.
big deal.
They're looking
You
at
get a new water line and some new pavement on N Street
Yeah.
by sub in a year or two.
Okay.
yeah, so they're looking at next year for this project.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. No idea.
One question on that, if they go through, do the water line and then pave it, will they put in the curbs and sidewalks?
No,
Just
No, they only have to restore it to
they'll try and do as little pavement as possible.
reasonable condition.
Well, the street's in such bad shape that they're gonna have to do the whole width of the street.
They try not to.
Well, yeah, I can't comment on that till we see the actual plans and what they're doing, so. I will
Well,
probably be
what
seeing
they're
that in the
gonna-
spring.
What they're gonna be tearing up is the part of the street that's holding the potholes together.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we have a lot of these, we call asphalt mat streets around town that are not in good shape.
Yeah. Well, that's what West End here is. like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like cobblestone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, alligator, yeah.
Mill Street was a larger capital project. We did as it was actually a bond project that went out for a vote to fix Mill Street. And that's gonna be wrapped up here soon.
Wasn't it a federal money
I
project?
think it was both. I could be wrong on that. It was something the city did to fix Mill Street as a
But
whole.
when they did
the street project, all of the utilities underneath. If you're gonna cap something in concrete, the utilities do everything that they need to
Yeah.
then, before you put the concrete over it. So
Just like we did it.
it's a good year of utility work, sewer, storm,
Yeah.
water,
Dig
telecom,
up the
power.
road
We
again.
touched everything underneath Mill Street, and a lot of backbone stuff runs underneath Mill Street for that whole neighborhood.
We shouldn't have to touch it for another 100 years.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
So do you have any other?
No, just one comment. I'm not looking personally at actually developing, doing the subdivision or partition.
Yeah.
I'm looking at using this as a selling point to increase the value of my property.
Right, so just need the information.
That's,
Trying to figure out what's achievable.
yeah.
Yeah, and whoever would buy it would do their own due diligence too. We do these kind of meetings with prospective developers all the time because they want to do the same thing and figure it out before they buy it.
Okay,
Is
But
your,
the meeting notes and recording from this meeting would be something that you could pass on, that anybody could request a copy of this meeting recording and go watch it and hear all the answers for themselves too. You could get a copy of the recording.
Wonderful.
and share it.
Thank you.
yeah. I would like to do that.
sure, yeah, well, I'll ask someone to send you the meeting recording.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then if you need the variance application or the code section, we can get that to you too.
Okay.
There may be other variances you would want to apply for at the same time potentially, like the actual setback variances within the lot. You could try to apply for variances to those from day one.
Right.
At the same time, you're trying to get a variance to multiple things all at once to maximize your developable footprint.
Well, if we could get that setback shortened up a couple of feet.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like there is some hope for that, from what you're saying.
Yeah, what we can do then is, they make double wide manufactured homes that are 24 feet wide.
Mhm,
And that would allow us to do that.
mhm.
They also now make ones that are single wide, but they're over under they're stacked duplexes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I've seen the picture.
Yeah. I did some foundation inspection for those in Arizona early in my career.
That was another thing with this too. It looks like on these two, it's not meeting their rear yard setback here. So it'd be 10 feet. So you just might have to adjust the line somewhat.
well, the 70 feet that I measured actually the lines aren't exact.
Okay, yeah, I was
I've got-
thinking that they probably, you know,
I've
it
got
was
10
just,
feet
Mhm.
set up there
okay, good.
From the back of the house.
from the back of the
Yeah.
house.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
same
In
with
the
the
back.
side of the shop, whether that would be a side or a back.
And
I
that
guess
would be
it'd
a
back,
rear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But how we measure which setbacks gets a little different. It's not based on the orientation of the house, it's based on where the street frontages are, so.
There's a lot of other stuff we didn't touch on, like stormwater management, stuff like that, that we don't need to go into it, but there's gonna be a whole lot more minutia and detail on actual approvable development that we touched on
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Building
Everything.
those too, but I
Yeah,
think we just hit on the ones that would be like,
the big ones.
yeah, deal killers potentially.
Yeah, a lot of the additional problems, once again, they are well-known engineering problems that are ready solutions. We can work with you or whoever develops property on, but there's stuff that didn't get mentioned in this meeting that still hurdles to cross, but it's within the realm of normal.
right.
There's no BPA easement on this. property.
No,
It's not once 100 foot, yeah.
I don't see, and honestly, the rainbow right of way at the back is the only weird one, being only 30 feet wide. West End is actually wider than what we require now for a similar style street. So we got plenty of right of way on West End. In fact, and we probably wouldn't require a 7-foot PUE along the West End frontage because it's wide enough and all the utilities already exist inside that.
And
right
then
of
where
way.
the water is.
Yeah, depending on, this is all not nailed down. But streets are getting narrower and narrower, and part of that, now we put a lot of utilities in people's front yards. So we need an easement to do that for new development.
Right.
When you drive around a new subdivision, there's a whole lot of utilities that go, in an older one like this, they were going over your head. Well, they're all going behind the sidewalk on new subdivisions, underneath the ground, behind the sidewalk.
Using the 750 UV.
Yeah,
Right.
but we likely wouldn't require that on this street because it's an older street that's over with what we require now, and the utilities already exist inside that right-of-way framework. So we don't need that additional space behind, but if it was a brand new subdivision out where cows used to graze, entirely different discussions.
Looking, I don't mean.
No, you're fine, yeah.
Thinking.
Yeah.
Once in a while, this Rainbow Boulevard or whatever it is,
Rainbow Drive.
doesn't line up with the property line
Mhm.
of his lot. And then we're talking about a street that I don't have the numbers to hand, you do, but that's not lining up with the eastern line of Rainbow. How does that factor?
We would have to figure that out in the future, whether if that property to his east would ever have any kind of redevelopment.
Well,
Or
actually,
we would try and buy anything additional there.
what I see of Rainbow Drive, it's in line, maybe just a little bit to the east of my property corner.
And maybe
East
that
side.
we don't
So
get
this
that.
is wrong. Is that what you're telling me, Rich?
Yeah.
This here and how it doesn't line
Yeah.
up is wrong?
And I've got a pin inside my property line. See that the fence, not inside my property line, inside the back fence. The fence is about 5 feet back from there. And there's just kind of little fence that's 4x4s with a 2x4 across it. And at one of those posts, there's a pin that's in line with Rainbow Drive. And that's,
Yeah, you would have a surveyor that would help you with any future partition, all that, but it could be that, you know, all the city, I mean, again, this corridor has to be preserved, not built in. And then it doesn't mean you would still own it, or it would be part of the lots. The city might try and come buy it from you someday. And or negotiate, you know, a dedication of some kind, and maybe it's not even a full street, maybe it's a bicycle pedestrian access way. That we ultimately try and negotiate
Or
or
just
purchase of
the valley.
a 12-foot corridor through there or something.
well,
Anyway,
over here on the map, to the west, right at the end of Rainbow Drive, I don't see Rainbow Drive there
No.
going south.
Rainbow.
right there.
No.
Oh, you mean
Oh,
further down?
raise the map up.
Okay.
It's offset, it doesn't go down there.
Okay, Rainbow Drive over here, there's a little piece that goes up there that's, would be wide enough for that.
Oh, he means
It-
this way.
No, over here, this.
I think talking about this, but I don't think that is.
It's just a privately owned piece of property.
Yeah,
That's not a road.
it was owned by the property next door.
Yeah,
Looked-
we looked at that, but, so it goes into the backyards of two other houses on the north, so.
Yeah,
Again, it's a tricky area to look for any opportunity for a north-south connection.
right.
You know, what we also didn't really talk about is the end of that stub of rainbow that dead ends into your property isn't really improved. It's like weeds and grass. So you would be required to improve that. as
Can I
well
make a
to
suggestion?
access off it. Sure.
Nighthawk Lane over here
Mhm.
Yeah.
comes out this way. And then there's right there,
Turn down.
yeah,
Yeah.
if,
Yeah.
see,
We've looked at that.
there's a house there that was condemned and somebody bought that half-acre property for $30,000
Wow.
for taxes.
It's a screaming deal.
And they've been rebuilding the house, but
Well, if they ever come in for redevelopment like you're asking about, we would have similar conversation with them. I mean, and that property to the north at the end of Nighthawk, if that ever comes in for redevelopment, we would be looking for an opportunity to try and get that kind of street connection to
yeah,
turn and go south, you
It
know.
did before you came on board. I want to say 12 to
Yeah.
14 years ago it did, and we actually required them to,
But-
no,
Yeah,
that.
put it through.
but it never came to fruition.
Yeah, so we look for every opportunity for those kind of street connections that
Right.
when development happens, so.
Yeah, anything we decided back then has no standing now, it's all expired.
right,
And it never progressed to the point where they actually did a division or dedication.
yeah. All right. Well, the people that own the building where Nighthawk Lane can't come through to Rainbow Drive anymore, actually are my next door neighbors on the east.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
They built that new house there.
Well, that's not a house, it's a shop.
Oh, well,
Oh, the shop that's right off of Rainbow there.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there was a new house built where Nightwalk would go through, right?
If
You drag it down.
you might.
Drag
Yeah,
it
that's not pertinent to our property, I don't think.
it faces out on Rainbow Drive. There's that lot with the shop building and then there's a flag lot behind it. And they own both of those now.
Just refresh the whole map.
And I know, see,
Just hit the
people
search on 804 up there.
in the third house over from me.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing now.
But I bought those
I had saw
two pieces of property back there on Rainbow Drive. And they combined them all into one lot. And they took two existing lots plus their lot that their house was on that faces Rainbow Drive.
Yeah.
And they married them and did away with the partition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, they died. And the kids had the partition put back in place after the shop was built.
yeah.
And the shop is just there.
The house we were talking about is here's the shop you're talking about, this shop.
Yeah.
We're talking about this house
Oh,
was
that
built,
house.
cause
Oh.
that's where this Nighthawk would have potentially come through.
She's gone right through where that house.
But you're right, this shop was kind of combined with one of these. I
Yeah,
think.
the
Yeah.
one right below.
That
it.
one
Yeah,
right
this one.
there.
Not
This one.
that one.
So this was all one kind of big piece. at one
No,
point.
well, actually, see this vacant area with the one house on it?
This,
The house right next to it on the west. They are the people that owned all of that.
Okay.
They built the shop
Yeah.
after they married all the
Yeah.
lots together.
yeah,
That was why they could build the shop.
right,
And I wonder why something wasn't done when they redid the partition.
because the petition was already legal and it was allowed to just reestablish the line.
Oh,
We should have, today we would have done it differently. We would have required a covenant be recorded on it. It wasn't done back then.
And
okay.
it would have like been a deed
Yeah.
restriction that said the lots had to be, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I remember talking to the people because we pulled out the old minor partition and the people right next door to you bought it right then with the shop. It's the same owner, I think. So this one.
Yeah, those people,
They own the shop.
Yeah.
they own the
They
shop.
own the shop now,
Like
too.
what now?
Drag the whole screen down. There,
that?
as
Okay.
your X shows up.
Yeah, so it's Haley and that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
We're good.
Yep.
Anyway.
Thanks for.
Thanks for
coming in.
meeting.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the time. Oh.
You paid